television India. You're watching Beyond the Bottom Line. In fact, we're present at one of the biggest backward integrated real estate firms, precast factory at Sobha Limited. Joining me on the show is the Vice Chairman and the Managing Director, Mr. J.C. Sharma. Welcome to the show, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you.
This is, firstly, I would say it's unbelievable to see something of this size and this sorts in the country. If you could just help us understand what was the idea with regards to backward integration in real estate?
See, if you look at, we have been operating from Bangalore for last 24-25 years.
Correct.
We have got a huge, large land bank. And we have always believed in that India story, the IT story, the services sector economy story. And we felt that until unless we do not have that core competence of delivering projects, otherwise also we are delivering it on time, but at a speed where the benefit of that speed without compromising on the quality. Right? If you can deliver, you can do lot of benefits and provide support to the whole ecosystem.
Correct.
And that's how this precast plant was envisaged.
But did you always foresee this kind of demand, especially in this lower segment as well, because that's where the demand is increasing? You've started the factory almost 3 to 4 years ago, so was this always foreseen to be this big?
See, we always felt that if you can have the right size of a product with the right size of pricing, in India, even if the demand was not existing prior to that, probably it can be created.
Correct.
And today, looking at the kind of customers who have started buying, we really feel happy that we have been able to ensure that the people who would have taken at least 10 years more to buy a good home, they have started buying today.
Correct.
So that's where there was an overall comfort that the precast with speed, with cost, without compromising on the quality, if you can master, you can deliver good number of units at a price point.
And the time span is also short.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was the kind of investment that you made when you looked at this kind of a project?
If you look at, this is one of the most modern precast plant in India anyone has put up.
Okay.
Right. And we had spent on the plant and machinery and the building almost 100 crore plus.
Okay.
But we thought that when you have to build 7,000 homes, right, it is good to spend this kind of money upfront and reap the benefits over a longer period. And the whole experiment has been extremely successful, I must say.
So in this factory itself, if you have to take a 1 year into consideration, how many houses do you build in the factory?
It's a good point. We have been delivering roughly 1.2 million square feet of homes. 1,000 homes are being delivered every year through this factory. So
that's a humongous idea. And if it was not for the factory and if you were doing it manually with laborers alone, how long would it take for you to deliver that quantum?
I think at least it would have taken 2 more years to have given this kind of a product of this size and magnitude.
Okay. Now, taking this now, your entire precast factory right now is with regards to where Bangalore goes. So is it going to be that you will continue expanding on this phase only in Bangalore, or do you plan to take this technology to the other parts of the country as well?
See, we still believe that India's story is yet to play out. And we still believe that India needs a good number of homes for the people who really need the homes, sort of a thing. At the same time, we also have to be conscious about the ground realities, the market conditions, and the depth of the market, sort of a thing. So maybe it may take 3 to 5 years, but the idea is to replicate this kind of a product and project in every city where we are.
So if that is going to be the plan as well, which city according to you would be the go-to destination for you?
It's a good point. I think the NCR comes right in our mind.
But isn't NCR, Gurugram something which has been under pressure with regards to sales right now?
See, this is unfortunately a transition period. What we are seeing today cannot and should not take away the potential of NCR or even that for matter any city.
Correct.
Look at Hyderabad. Just about 5 years back, people had written of Hyderabad.
Correct.
And today it is competing with Bangalore on the commercial space absorption. And if one city which is doing so well even in the residential space, it is Hyderabad.
Hyderabad.
So we cannot simply deny that.
So this is more of a longer term plan where do you foresee NCR
medium
as
to long term?
Correct,
I will not.
Probably a 3 to 5 year plan where we can look at NCR Gurugram regions
very
also with this. Now taking the cost also into consideration. Now 100% the labor cost would have gone down because of this, but simultaneously the costs that have been incurred, does that neutralize it, or do you think still you have a benefit in terms of the cost?
See, we do have net some benefits. One is because of the time savings, the fixed cost what we would have incurred, it gets saved. The cash flow is relatively faster. The steel cement cost, because every element in our building is precast, it's quite high. So that cost is reasonably on a much higher side. But the labor cost, as you correctly put it across, is less, and the size and scale has allowed us to ensure that neither our margins get impacted, and at the same time, right, we can cover up that little bit of extra cost on the steel and the cement through this efficiency.
Right. But is there any opportunity that arises where you're able to deliver a better housing at a lower cost than what the peers are doing on the back of this technology?
I think there are certain other technologies also which we are also practicing in some other projects, right? That aluminium shuttering system, DOCA, colloquially it is being called, and that is also allowing that structure to come up much faster. And relatively the costs are also being controlled and contained. But here lots of planning is required, because you can't play with the design element. Lot of similarity is required. But a factory-like environment, what you are seeing here, right, in which if you produce the elements and then deliver it and erect it, in my view, right, that is the way forward to address India's housing demand.
Right. Now, taking, the entire assembling process into consideration as well, now, the place where we are present in right now, from your, even from your pillars to your walls, everything gets manufactured here. Now, beyond this, any other backward integration that you're looking at as well in this segment?
Of course, yes. If you look at, we are the only company in India where the design is in-house, and we have more than 200 people working in our design, architectural and structural design studio. We have got 3 very large plants of making these doors and windows, metalworking and glazing, fabrication work. On top of this, the blocks, what you see being used in the buildings and the curbstones, we have our own plant, and the manufacturing plant by themselves today have started adding more than 500 crore as external billing, and these are very large in size.
So external billing you're saying is supplying to other contractors?
Yes.
Okay. So currently, from the entire capacity that you have in these units, how much of it in terms of your revenues or in terms of your utilization is from external versus internal? See,
it will be a pleasant surprise in this difficult market. For last 3-4 years, we have been growing 20% plus compounded on my construction and manufacturing thing.
I'll tell you on this bit, I'll interrupt over here, because when the industry is ruling under pressure, it's always been a surprise, at least in our journalist mind, as to how Sobha is keeping and maintaining the pace.
Thank you. So this has been rather today an asset for us. What we used to feel that to be a fixed cost, how do you manage this kind of large plants, has become kind of an asset, cash generating, profit generating vertical.
Correct.
And at the same time you are able to control the quality.
Right. So, but if you have to talk about the supplies as well, how much of it is going to external parties versus how much is getting consumed internally by Sobha?
See, almost 1/3 of our manufacturing plant's capability, excluding the precast. Precast is 100%.
Okay.
Right, being used in-house. But the interior factories capabilities, metalworking and glazing factories capabilities, as well as this concrete product division's capabilities, almost 1/3 to 40% today it is being leveraged by supplying these products to the outside parties.
So, Mr. Sharma, now that we've come to the under construction sites as well, what we need to understand is what we already saw that was getting manufactured. All of that comes and gets assembled here?
Yes, for erection purpose.
Correct. And even if the project is not here, suppose if it was somewhere on the, apart from this area, will the precast factory still be here, or do you make that precast mold everywhere where you're constructing?
It is possible, but right now looking at the current demand and my capabilities to produce, where we are running this factory 24/7 sort of a thing, we feel it is good enough to cater to the requirements of this project alone.
Alone right now.
But if you wish, you can always use these elements, transport them, and thereafter you can erect wherever you want.
Right. So, for example, the buildings which have already been constructed, it's been how long have you taken to make these out of these precasts?
See, we are taking, how do I define, not more than 3 months to complete the structure work.
Oh. So, per floor must be around?
Per floor maybe about 5 to 7 days.
So, a week's time and you construct one floor. Okay. And how much more construction is still pending in the place where we are standing at right now?
See, we feel that in next 1.5 years' time, we should be able to complete all our towers.
Okay, so and how many towers in this property right now?
We have roughly 65 and odd.
Okay, and how many have been completed?
34.
So 34 have already been completed. Okay, and overall as well, I mean, any difficulty that you face in terms of assembling these? I mean, anything which you think could be a concerning area that you have to really take care about?
See, there were a lot of issues. Earlier the design was supposed to be given by some outsider companies, could not cope up with the pace at which we need it.
Correct.
So we need to get into our own design. When we look at even the retaining wall and every single element here, right, we have been trying to see that why not use this precast elements only. It was something new. You have got 2 basements in all the buildings.
All the buildings.
Right, so that in itself was a challenge. You have got 13 to 14 story of a height, so you need to have powerful cranes to lift all the elements and then to erect. So all those things were there, but we have got a good team of engineers.
So in terms of precast as well, do you think these are the ones which are earthquake friendly and, you know, shock proof and all of it?
Of course, yes. Of course, yes. Of course, the Bangalore is not as seismic prone, say, as much as you see in the northern part of India. But within that, these are the powerhouses. These buildings will last at least 1.5 to 2 times more than the conventional buildings.
Oh, really?
They are soundproof. They are much superior quality buildings than what normally you and me otherwise are using.
Okay, so that's an interesting point to pick up. Now that we are standing at an under construction site, from what's the kind of land bank that Sobha holds right now overall?
We have got more than 2,000 acres plus of the land.
And how much of it is still under construction?
So right now, under construction, the land parcel is more than 350 acres.
Okay.
Right now, sort of a thing. And in Bangalore alone, we have got more than 700 acres of land to be developed over a period of time.
Right.
But as I was trying to explain, that you need to design at a big scale and you need to be sure that the market should be able to absorb it. And your pre-operative costs must justify a sustainability of this kind of an investment. This is the project which is having 6,945 units, and this is till date Bangalore's and Karnataka's the largest ever housing project ever sanctioned in its history.
Right. So that's a big thing over there.
So you have to understand from that context that we are here for size and scale. And while we are facing the headwinds on a short-term basis, our view is suddenly you will see the demand coming up and there will be supply-side constraint. And at that point of time, this kind of a technology and the speed without compromise.
Help you.
Yes.
Right. Now, you know, from the unsold which is under construction right now, what's the timelines you have in mind that you will be able to sell out this kind of inventory?
We I think have already done more than 4 million square feet of the sales. We are running ahead of sales with the execution sort of a thing. And hopefully in another 2 years' time, we should be able to come out of this selling challenge as well.
selling challenge, another challenge that has suddenly come in right now is with what the NHB has come out with regards to a blanket ban on interest subvention with regards to under construction properties. Firstly, what are your thoughts in it? Then we'll talk in detail about it.
See, whatever little bit we have understood, we truly believe that in India the construction sector, real estate sector, the automobile sector, they need to be understood properly by the policymakers.
Correct.
And the job should be like that of how a doctor takes care of the patient. So if there have been some issues, some challenges with some developers, let us address those issues, then to come up with a blanket kind of a ban that no, now onwards there should not be any kind of a funding to the developers via the subvention scheme. So what we would suggest is let it be a construction linked, progress linked kind of a subvention so that the customer has got a good hedge.
Correct.
Then to blanketly ban it and ensure that the people who have been planning some projects based on this kind of a scheme.
So do you think, let me interrupt over here, now if the interest subvention is stopped, do you think the price that an individual or a consumer will pay will go up marginally because of it, taking the interest cost into consideration?
See, need not be, because on the pricing front I have been always telling it is market driven, and we have got many considerations to see that we remain not only solvent, we remain liquid also. So from that angle I believe people will try to offer the product at a prices where they feel they can sustain them.
Another thing over here is I want to ask you is, now NHB has come out with a circular, saying that the NBFCs, the housing finance companies cannot lend through interest subvention. But we've not seen any release like that or any communication that has been passed on by the RBI to the banks. Do you think there is a possibility that on the back of this the banks could still do interest subvention?
See, my gut feeling is most of the banks today, they are otherwise slow in lending money to the developers or to the customers. Some of them, they are lending. Maybe looking at the overall strength of the project, they may give. They may give. To the best of my understanding, some of these kind of schemes, they got introduced with some kind of a nudge even from these financing, housing finance companies and NBFCs as well. So my net feeling is that if the banks are permitted and RBI still has not endorsed that view, let us hope that NHB also comes out with a revised circular and doesn't kill the subvention scheme completely.
Completely, right. And how big a burden is this, taking the liquidity crisis into consideration as well? Because since the entire INFS crisis that unfolded probably September 2018, since then you have the system which has started to crumble. So it's not only the NBFCs, even lending to other sectors which has come to a standstill. You have the auto space, as you mentioned as well, where a lot of issues that have been created, the slowdown that has been created, sales have bottomed to almost 8-9 month low. Now, if you're letting the liquidity crisis impact you so much, how do you foresee it going ahead? Because imagine someone who's not really going to be able to afford a car at this level, how do you expect the person to afford a house?
Thank you for asking this question, because I truly believe that the real estate and construction sector along with the automobile, they are the two lifeline sectors of our economy.
Correct.
Right? Their contribution is bigger than that of the agricultural sector.
So then why is the government not giving any impetus to it?
That is what sometimes we are baffled, that knowing it fully well, it is incumbent that the policy makers must take note of what is going through in these two sectors and what kind of immediate steps they must take to revive the demand, to improve the sentiments, to take all the stakeholders into confidence and ensure that demand comes back, the liquidity improves and the job creation and the what you call the overall economy starts seeing the benefits of this kind of measure.
Right. So according to you, what are the steps that are needed to revive, not only real estate, but even if you have to take automobiles, because taking both these into consideration right now?
See, today they need to prioritize, right? Today when we understand that the liquidity is the bigger challenge than the solvency part, let us address the liquidity. as we talked about the NBFC issue.
Correct.
So why not developers having got good projects, some government authorities take upon themselves under some escrow mechanism, under some third party competency, we should ensure that the interest of the customers, the interest of the
But isn't RERA already in place for that?
The RERA is in place. RERA does not per se supervise the liquidity issue.
Correct.
The RERA only looks after whether you are honoring your commitment given to the customers or not, sort of a thing. Here we are talking about a systemic issue where the developers are deprived of a liquidity, where the project is viable. And we are looking at somehow to make sure that the project becomes viable, an injection of liquidity is provided. And it can be done through some kind of a special window scheme. And we are prepared to engage ourselves from CREDI, otherwise also with the government authorities to come out with a win-win kind of a solution.
Right, so a win-win solution is something that the government actually needs to work on as well,
yes,
to actually go ahead and see sales happening of these kind of properties.
Sector, right. It actualizes, it realizes its true potential.
Absolutely. So as we were talking about the issues that the system has been facing as well, now one thing that we've reached, a final output, a final product over here, do you think, now the government has taken steps, say, in terms of affordable housing, but do you think anything that could have been done by the government in terms of a rebate on GST or a refundable GST or probably a waiver in terms of stamp duty, things like this could be considered by the government for the consumers?
Of course, yes. See, at the end of the day, right, we need to look at whether what we are doing is going to overall help the Indian economy to grow, Indian consumption to improve, Indian asset ownership to be seen visible. And from that angle, looking at the levels at which we are today, we are talking about housing for all. Right?
Not housing for some.
We are talking about housing for all. And when we talk from that perspective, it is about time that we start thinking out of box. And which are very simple way to look at. That the customers who are paying, say, the stamp duty, which you already suffered on the land, and you already suffered the GST on the materials as well as on the labor, why force that customer to pay again the kind of a stamp duty on the apartment?
Absolutely.
If you still want one time the money to be paid, correct, why not keep that money in their credit account to ensure that yes, tomorrow when they sell, at least right, that much of money is given to them as a credit, or the new incumbent doesn't add that much as a cost.
Correct.
Similarly, on the case of GST, today we are being asked to absorb all the GST as our construction cost. On top of this, we are asking the customers to pay 5%.
Correct.
If that is the case, that's 5% because you already suffered.
So it's almost double taxation that we are looking at.
Double taxation. So if that is the case, still if you want, keep it. But give that 5% credit when they tomorrow buy a car, when they buy an air conditioner.
Correct. Some scheme
or
needs to be
like
worked on that front.
And the technology will permit so that there is an incentive to buy a home to ensure that they become an owner of a car also. And these are the things which I believe out of box we should be thinking.
And very lastly, in terms of the opportunities, in terms of the kind of landscape that we have in the ecosystem as right now, what is it you think which is the major thing which is needed to boost this economy right now?
See, we keep telling everyone that at the end of the day, this is one of the most regulated sector in India. And in that most regulated sector in India, somewhere some kind of a comfort factor has to be provided. And that comfort factor is yet to come. That ease of doing business, ease of availing of bank funding, I'm talking from the sector's kind of a thing, right, has to be seen and felt. No sooner that kind of a thing happens, in India the entrepreneurs have got the real animal spirit and they would like to do what they believe is their responsibility.
Correct.
But yes, the system must ensure that instead of treating them as adversarial, they need to treat them as somewhere the key stakeholders, the developers, and ensure that among us, if there is a scope for improvement, there's scope for better compliance, there's a scope for better transparency. We are for it.
Right. And very lastly, with regards to where the liquidity
And engagement with our CREDI body, CII, FICCI and others to ensure that we start adding value. And it becomes a value generating exercise than to keep criticizing about the past issues
Correct.
and not moving forward.
Right. So a lot of value creation by the government, a lot of impetus, a lot of opportunities that the government also needs to give and create for the system as a whole. So it was wonderful having a conversation with you, Mr. Sharma. So that's exactly what is needed in the system as well with regards to where real estate is concerned, with regards to where the entire consumption story goes, because it's not only the automobile space, it's not only the FMCG space, it is real estate as well, which is a part of this entire consumption growth story, and a lot of impetus that will be needed by the government as well. That's all that we have on this edition of Beyond the Bottom Line. Thanks for watching.